So how much does optometry school cost, and how much student loan debt will you take on to pursue this career path? Well, in this video, I'm going to share with you what you need to know about optometry school debt and student loans. And stick around till the end where I share with you how to minimize the student loan burden. Hey guys, I'm Dr. Ryan Corte, and this is Ryan Reflects. On this channel, I share with you actionable personal development content as well as my thoughts on trending topics and common life experiences. If you're new here, hit that subscribe button. Also, throughout any point in the video, make sure you check out the notes and links in the description below. Let's be honest, borrowing money to pay for tuition and living expenses is kind of a fact of life for those who pursue higher education. And optometry school is no different. To give you some perspective, I graduated optometry school in 2012, and I had $160,000 in student loan debt at the time. I pursued a residency, and during that time, I decided to go on the pathway of the pay-as-you-earn program, where I paid 10% of my gross adjusted income towards my loans for 20 years, and after that, the government would forgive the rest of the loan, and I would pay capital gains tax on that. Well, I decided over time that it just wasn't the right strategy for me. And so I went ahead and I started aggressively paying off my loans in the snowball method from Dave Ramsey. But once I started doing so, interest had accrued over time, and my student loan debt was north of $190,000. Now, I can also tell you I have successfully paid off my student loans, and so I'm excited to share with you some insight, but some other things to keep in mind. In 2019, the reported average optometry student loan debt was $173,000 for optometrists. And also, I have friends who have graduated right around the $200,000 mark and well north of that, approaching $250,000 to $300,000 in student loan debt after 4 years of optometry school, including living expenses. Optometry school tuition in 2020, and this is not including living expenses, can run as little as $20,000 to $30,000 a year if you're going in state in particular schools. But it can also run as high as $50,000 to $60,000 a year. Let's just say if you're going out of state or you decide to go to a private academic institution. So with these factors in consideration, here are some tips on how to best decrease or minimize your optometry student loan burden. Tip number one, minimize undergraduate debt. So one thing I wish I did was I wish that in high school I took AP classes and tested out of those courses to apply that towards my undergraduate degree. And then I also thought about, hey, I could have saved myself and my family a lot of money if I went to a community college before going to a four-year institution. And in doing so, you can greatly decrease or minimize any debt you have to take on. Let's just say you are going to a four-year institution, find a way to minimize your debt by not living outside of your means and only taking out the student loans that you need if you're taking out student loans for undergrad. Another way to decrease the student loan burden is, if possible, find a way to go to in-state schools that are public. So public in-state schools, of course, tuition is significantly less than going out of state or going to a private institution. Now, I know that's not always the case, and this isn't even an option for a lot of people. Me personally, I went out of state for optometry school, and then I even looked at a bunch of out-of-state optometry private institutions that were all fantastic. There's a lot of great schools out there, but if you can go to an in-state school that is public, it will help you decrease your student loan burden. Next, I highly recommend that you apply for scholarships. And scholarships come in many forms. They're all over the place. They can be specifically through your academic institution that you decide to go to for optometry school. But they can be outside of that. And there are a lot of ways to find great scholarships for professional students. Also, keep in mind, if you decide to sign up for the military very early on, you can have a lot of your student loans paid off after a number of years of service. So great ways to really decrease the student loan burden. Apply for scholarships and look into alternative options like joining the military. And every optometry school actually has the opportunity for students to do work-study jobs. And so in doing so, you have the opportunity to work within an optometry school, see how things are ran, depending on the job opportunity that you look into and apply for. And you can learn a ton. Yeah, it doesn't pay off a ton towards your loans, but it can help decrease the burden on maybe some of your grocery bills or some of your ancillary expenses. And of course, when you're looking at student loans in general for optometry school, I recommend that you look first at federal student loans through the US government instead of having to go through private third parties. You tend to get better interest rates up front. You have a lot of the loan interest deferred, and it just is in your favor. Now, of course, after optometry school, if you decide to go with a standard repayment plan or even a 30-year and you want to refinance and pay it off as soon as possible, that's fine. But going through the federal student loan program gives you a lot of opportunity to defer any kind of interest over time and even look into opportunities like pay-as-you-earn programs. Throughout optometry school, you're going to learn a lot about the different optometry practice modalities that are available for you to practice in after graduation. But one thing I can tell you is that specific modalities, let's just say you work for a nonprofit, qualify for federal student loan forgiveness. So I have friends who are paying on their student loans for 10 consecutive years, and after those 10 years are complete, their federal student loans will be forgiven by the US government. So that's a really cool way to work in a specific subset of the profession and have your student loan burden forgiven after you actively serve in that region. And of course, what better way to minimize the student loan burden by taking out less student loans for lifestyle and living expenses. So when they say live like a student, they don't mean go and get your own place that's in a high-end area of where your optometry school is and pay a ton on rent, or maybe spend a ton of money on groceries or eating out or concerts or whatever it may be, right? You can find a way to get through optometry school and have a fantastic time and do so without spending a ton of money. I promise you, it is there. The opportunities are plentiful. You don't need to spend a lot of money. I know it's, a lot of people go through optometry school in their 20s and they don't want to really quote unquote miss out on those years and they want to embrace it. But I can tell you, if you spend a lot of money on lifestyle decisions during optometry school and even after optometry school as a new graduate optometrist, you look back down the road and you realize, wow, I accrued a lot of debt and interest over time through those choices. I highly recommend you continue to live like a student during and after optometry school. My question of the day, what are your thoughts on optometry school debt and ways to minimize the student loan burden? Let me know in the comments below and stick around for my next video where we can reflect and grow stronger together.